Is it possible to have fun playing D&D and improve lives at the same time? How can you improve on that and still have fun? Welcome to Gaining Advantage. Welcome to Gaining Advantage. We are using role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons to help you make lives better. We have an extension on Limitless Heroics. It's not quite out yet. If you haven't heard of it, Limitless Heroics, including characters with disabilities, mental illness, and neurodivergence in 5th edition. The pre-order is still available. It's the most comprehensive integration of those concepts into a role-playing game ever made. And it's available on our website. There's a link in the show notes, and still available for pre-order at a significant discount over what it's going to be once it releases to the public. Also, to celebrate me getting my ADHD diagnosis this summer, we released and revised the ADHD mechanics that we had from that book. And there's a free sample, just an excerpt from Limitless Heroics on our website, so you can go grab that and check that out and use it. If you can't get Limitless Heroics, you want to just get that that piece for your game or for your own personal interest, you can go get it right now. And we are getting ready for our next project. Limitless Characters is the most diverse collection of fantasy miniatures ever. Now, you've probably seen miniatures that have amputations or wheelchairs. Now, we have wheelchairs, we have amputations. Our wheelchairs have a ram or these sort of arms like Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man. We also have a halfling, though, that is part Dragonborn that has Down syndrome. And we have 2 different tieflings with different expressions of cerebral palsy and more. And so we want not just the sort of standard disabilities that you see represented, but we want a wide, vast array of different representation. And so that's exactly what this project is all about. And even if you don't use miniatures, we are also releasing with that a collection of adventures that are featuring these characters so you can use them in your game. And so if you join the Dragon's Horde email group on our website, you can get all the updates and the previews and all the information on that as it is made available. Also, we are announcing a new product or a new collection of products, and it is called the Dragon's Lair. Now, do you like D&D Beyond, where you have everything in one place and it's all linked together and it's easy to find and you don't have to page through a bunch of stuff, looking stuff up? It's just all right there. Well, we are doing that with all of our publications at Wyrmworks Publishing, everything all linked together. And you can get it all for only $3 a month via Patreon. That includes Limitless Heroics, it includes adventures, exclusive extras like our exclusive summer adventure, right? And it's a huge savings over buying all the different PDFs and hard copies, and it's more accessible. You can just sign up for our Patreon, and the link is in the show notes, and you get access to all of it. Right now, it's still in development. Not everything is up there yet. It takes some time to put everything in there and link it and format it and everything. But a huge chunk of it is there already. And so you can go and sign up for our Patreon to get access to that. Or for $9 a month, you get all the PDFs too. So then even if you end up canceling, you still have those PDFs to keep. And so now, on with the interview. Tabletop role-playing games have massive potential to make the world better, but it makes a difference how you play. So how do you make the most of your time together? We welcome Peter Jung from Roll for Kindness to offer some help. Welcome, Peter.
Hello.
So what would you like us to know about you personally, specifically speaking to the tabletop role-playing game crowd?
So a lot of people had their lives changed by role-playing games, and I'm one of them. Role-playing games are the reason I still have friends. Role-playing games are the reason I had friends in the first place. And I think that role-playing games have such a tremendous potential to change the world for the better and reach people who like myself, I was autistic, am autistic, and just being that isolated kid with not a big support network, I did okay because I had friends backing me up and really supporting me. So through that personal experience, I have grown this tremendous love for tabletop role-playing games, not just as a vessel for fun, but for a vessel for social change for good. And that is kind of my autistic special interest. It is kind of what I, eat, breathe, and sleep. And I've been fortunate enough to be in this field for like 8 or 9 years, just doing everything from like theater groups to school groups to therapy groups to social skills groups. You name it, I've at least done it a few times. So it's just a really exciting field.
All right. So, what is Roll for Kindness, and what are some of the most important takeaways from your work?
So, Roll for Kindness was kind of this idea that we needed to think about using games for good outside of a therapeutic context. I stumbled into applied role-playing games. I was running these randomly generated dungeons at my friendly local game store, and I was working in the foster care system back then. And there was the owner of the game store was a good friend of mine, and he knew that I worked in the foster care system. So I'm running these groups, and all these foster parents are bringing their foster kids into the group or into the games. And I'm just like, this is really strange. And finally, I asked him, like, so what's going on? At the end of every game, I have some foster parent come up to me and say, hey, this kid is, I've never seen him so animated. He's having such a good time. I'm so glad you're doing these groups. I'm just like, thanks. And after, several foster parents doing this, I asked the game store owner, like, what's going on? And apparently he had a bunch of foster care friends and told them that I was running foster care groups. I was like, no, that's not what I'm doing. These are randomly generated dungeons that I'm doing because it's fun. But that was the kind of aha moment. And then I went and started working with Dr. Rafael Bocamazzo for Aspiring Youth, doing autism groups. And I've been doing that for like 8 years now. But as I started kind of diversifying and doing all sorts of different groups, I kind of realized that there are so many ways you can roll for kindness. And on the flip side, kindness is not a state of being, it is a verb, and you have to make those kindness checks like every day. And sometimes you fail, and that's how you learn. But that's more of a philosophy piece there. But I really am all for looking at disparate ways to do social good through gaming. If you're able to do it for therapy, that's a very, very popular way, but I want this to be accessible for everyone. And so that's kind of what Roll for Kindness is all about. And I run rollforkindness.com, which is kind of a blog where I talk about all the weird different things I've done and all the mistakes I've made, so people can hopefully learn from them and do good.
Cool. Well, as a former foster parent who has adopted 3 children through the foster care system, I love that you were doing that, even if it was inadvertently.
Yeah, it was fantastic. One of my favorite moments was at the end of the game, this little like 8-year-old went up to me and said, I've never been so scared in my life. When that cultist was about to take me into the temple and try to make me join the cult, I'm just like, oh, I'm so sorry. Was that too much? He's like, no, it was amazing. And it's so much fun. I've never been that scared. It's great. And so he just, goes off about how much he loved the evil cult guy. And at the end, the foster dad just said, I don't know what you did. I've never seen him talk that much. And that was like that conversation was the light going off. Like there's something to this.
Yeah. No, it really gets me thinking, as I think back on trying to, connect with foster kids and just the struggles they had being moved around and, all of a sudden you're in a different school district and, and all this stuff, they feel so alone. And, And wow, what a brilliant way to get them plugged in and accepted. And I
And
love this.
completely by accident.
Like, I want to start foster care groups.
Please do. No. Like, please. My big thing is, if you can do something, do it. And then write about it and tell me about it, so I can connect you with other people doing it. Like, I another kind of secret passion of mine is connecting people with their people. And there's a bunch of education people I know. I love bringing them together. There's some social work people. There's a physical therapy guy. I love just learning about all the cool ways people are doing applied gaming.
Cool. That's awesome. And I really appreciate, what you said about that there's so many ways to do this. Not just therapy, because the therapy is awesome. And
Yeah.
I know some therapists. Geek Therapeutics has been talking about my book and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, that's awesome. And like, it's like, oh, wow. And yet at the same time, you don't have to be in therapy to experience a lot of these kind of benefits. And I've seen that too. And a lot of that sort of non-therapeutic, making people's lives better is how my company got its start. And so, I just love your work. Let me ask you, you cover all kinds of things in your blog that you talk about. What are some of the big things where you said, hey, people really need to know this?
Probably my favorite article is on how to get into applied gaming. And it kind of outlines 4 kind of known pathways. And it's just kind of like you can do this. This is not limited to you. And I actually did a talk like last PAX with a bunch of applied DMs. There was a guy that ran games in a hospital, some teachers, some therapists, and myself. And we all kind of talked about just the different ways that we use gaming. And so that one article is, I'm blanking on the name, I'll need to go look it up, but I think that is a really good blueprint on how you can do this. And we need you to do this because I'm constantly waitlisted on my groups. People are always asking like, hey, can I get in your groups? I'm like, no, sorry. And I'm hearing constantly people are looking for, D&D groups and really struggling to find ones that will meet their kids' needs. So we need more people doing this and reaching more diverse needs, not just in the therapy circle, but, having, queer groups and, foster care groups and all senior groups. There's someone in Germany doing amazing work with geriatric stuff. And, we just need everyone. Everyone has some special skill that they can bring to this field. And we need everyone because, there's a lot of darkness in the world. And if we can, use people's passion for RPGs to build kindness and happiness and some good experiences, then we're doing good. We're saving the planet in our own little way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's really important. I can imagine so many people, they hear about this kind of stuff and they go, okay, but I'm not qualified. I don't have, the degree or training or whatever. And so I can't do that. All right. So which nicely leads into my next question. Be excellent to each other seems obvious. All right. But there are always points we just haven't thought of. What are some tips that we might not realize? And also kind of what, just in general, if you were going to do this kind of a group, what do you need to know? What do you, you mentioned the article and we'll make sure to get a link to that in the show notes. Right. But, are there just certain things if you just, even if you don't have a specific sort of niche group, but you want to improve things in your own group, or you want to start a group and you want to make sure that it's beneficial, how do you do that?
What I like to do is, so I kind of come from a education background, and I like to think about kind of backwards lesson planning, where you start with what you want the learning goal or whatever to be, then how you're going to assess it, and then you come up with a lesson plan. I think RPG planning should be in much the same way. Think about, what you want the experience to be. Not just I want them to fight this dragon. No, it should be, hey, I want, Joey, who's quiet and really doesn't like talking with his siblings. I want to create some opportunities where they're able to talk with each other about something and not flip the table, and be able to collaborate and actually have 2 or 3 sentences where it's not swearing. So let's try to create some scenario where that happens. The other thing that's been really getting hammered into my head is lately I've started running disability groups. Normally I run like a lot of autism groups. These are kind of broader intellectual and developmental disabilities, and I think for that is giving people options to play the game in the way that's best for them. I'm working for a disability advocacy organization right now, and such a big part of teaching advocacy is modeling that, hey, your voice matters. You can choose whatever path is best for you, and we'll accommodate you. Maybe not all the world is going to reflect that, but some parts of the world will be, and teaching you to believe that and have those experiences where you say, I can't do this. And for someone to say, okay, is there something you can do? Would this work better for you? Let's come up with a way for us to succeed together, instead of just like, oh, this isn't a good fit for you, please leave the group. And that's actually what's really exciting about this group, is because we don't say, this isn't a good fit for you, please leave the group. I think a lot of other groups would say that to these individuals, because they might check out after 30 minutes and just say, I'm done. I don't have the spins to do this today, sorry. Or they might need real extensive supports, just understanding everything. And we are really working to make that work and give them the agency to say, I need you to do this for me. And modeling that, I think, is such a huge critical skill. And I'm so proud of the kids that have, or young adults who have spoken up and said, hey, this isn't working for me. I need you to DM in a different way. It's kind of hard to hear sometimes, but I'm glad they're saying it.
Awesome. Any other tips?
I think the biggest one is start with where your players are. Let the players lead you. When you're doing an applied gaming group, there's an extra layer on top of all the other layers of gameplay. And think about that extra layer of you doing whatever you're doing. If you're running a foster care group, you want to build some community. You want to help these kids form some friendships, feel less alone, be able to bond with other kids that have been through similar stories. That is your North Star. That is your guiding principle. Everything you do should support that. And so really think very intentionally with the way you design the game, the table culture you set, and everything you do to support that, but also make it fun. And fun is why people keep coming back to your table. So you always got to respect that.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I think a lot of people, they hear about this kind of intentional work and they think, yeah, but I want my game to be fun. And yeah, I think it's really important to note that, yeah, those two things are not mutually exclusive.
No, not at all. And you can really do both of those things and have it fun. Like right now with my my D&D autism group, we're running a theme park where there's a bunch of threats that the kids have to kind of deal with, and the threats are really diverse. So each kid has multiple options. Like, okay, I just want to do something really mechanical where I'm just rolling a bunch of dice. There's not a lot of role playing expected of me. I'm just doing this. Another kid might be, I just want to have a big, long conversation with the Warforged AI that's running the park and is slowly going rampant, and try to like keep it from questioning, is it okay to murder mortals? Are they really alive? You know, having that HAL 9000 conversation. And having those different options absolutely hits a lot of these goals of creating a space where all these kids can find places where they can kind of form up, group up, come up with strategies together, you know, have humor that is really fit to them, and social experiences where they're really supporting each other. But it's also really fun. They're also running this absolute disaster of a theme park, and it's goofy, it's hilarious, and you know, by the end of the kids are like out of breath from laughter. So you absolutely can do both.
And so how have you seen lives change because of your work? You already mentioned one or two stories, but I'm sure there's more.
You know, the one that has been happening recently is I've seen a couple kids who don't really have too many friends in my group start forming friendships, and they're hanging out outside a group. They're live streaming with each other, playing video games and stuff, and having these long conversations. I'm hearing from parents that they're staying up till like 1 a.m. chatting with each other. And this is a new experience to them because they've never had friends before. They've never had someone to stay up till 1 a.m. in the middle of summer talking about video game mechanics with. And they're, you know, going to each other's birthday parties and doing things like that, starting their own games. That's the latest one. So that's the freshest in my mind. And I've also done some family stabilization work that's been fantastic. The foster care stuff was a lot of fun, and you know, my life was changed through RPGs because you know, before RPGs I was just some weird kid with no friends, and then after RPGs I was a weird kid with weird friends. So it worked out wonderfully.
That's the best.
Yeah. And the amazing thing is I still hang out with those guys. I mean, we still game like every week. We don't really do D&D as much because, you know, nobody got time for that. So, but we still do some other like more short form games.
Awesome. All right. So you just rescued a djinn from the hands of an Ifriti, and it offers you 3 wishes to achieve your goals to make the world better. What do you wish for?
I really start with like, you know, no more climate change, and stop with the rise of white nationalism. That'd be a nice thing. But outside all the obvious glaring social issues that we're facing, right now, you know, working for this disability advocacy agency, I'm just steeped constantly because I do a lot of systems navigation work where I'm helping people with, you know, finding how to pay for rent, or getting, you know, therapy services, or, you know, figuring out their kid's IEP. So doing things like that. And something I see constantly is the people who need it the most, their needs are never prioritized. And it is so backwards because I did some time working in the tech industry, and every need I had was prioritized completely. Anything I needed. And interestingly enough, you know, asking for some accommodation in tech, they were a lot more accommodating than other experiences with like, you know, working in, you know, some mental health settings. But I think, you know, that's because the customers I was working with were, you know, big banks and stuff, and you know, they have money to burn. So I think, you know, I would wish for big tech money, the sort of ridiculous cash they had there being applied to the social work world where it needs to happen the most.
Yeah. Any other wishes?
I don't know. I'd like to have a couple $1 million just to fund my own massive grant just to do a bunch of RPG groups, although that is kind of happening. I think that's another question you'll be asking soon, but yeah, I'll talk about that soon.
All right. So What one message would you like to give gamers who are looking for a beneficial tabletop gaming group?
Find your people. And if you don't know your people, ask me, and I probably know one of them or can get you in touch with someone. Like a lot of people who are in the applied RPG world kind of know that I kind of try to know everyone. Whenever I'm at like a gaming convention, I'm, even though I'm incredibly autistic, I'm around networking like crazy, which is usually why after a con I need to like sleep for 3 weeks. But I'm meeting everyone, I'm getting to know people doing stuff, and by finding people doing similar work to you and learning from them, seeing what they're doing, sharing your stuff, you will become successful in this field. And there is a culture in this world. And I do have to give a shout out to the Adam and Adam at Game to Grow. One thing very early in the therapeutic D&D, or it was D&D back then, it was well before Critical Core. I was just sitting down and just talking with them, and one of the things they said is, they're really trying to revolutionize things with Game to Grow, but they want to make a culture of like a rising tide brings up all ships. They want to be as supportive as they can to other people, which is admirable. But they also realize there is there's no shortage of kids that need this. So, as much as possible, they're really working to do good. And I think they've set a culture where everyone wants to see each other succeed. And just find your people, learn from them, geek out together, and find that community.
Right. Now we've kind of hit this one too, but what one message would you like to give gamers who feel this is taking away all their fun?
Not every group's the right one for you. And actually, if you don't want to be in an applied group, I don't want you in the group. And that's kind of something that, when you're working with groups where parents are sending their kid to the group, if a kid doesn't want to be in my group, I don't want them to be in my group. I think I've only had that happen like once. It didn't last. And I don't want someone to be where they don't want to be. But at the same time, I also really value the idea that, there are a lot of groups out there, and not every group is the right one for you. And that's okay. If you are in a group and the focus is really on, developing healthy, positive socialization, and you are not interested in that, and you just want to be this antisocial murder hobo, and you're not invested in changing, so be it. This is probably not the right group for you. That being said, one of my groups, a sibling group, all 3 kids were murder hobos. 2 kids were murder hobos. One was like a sweet little, just adorable cinnamon bun. But this was a sibling group where the siblings could not stand each other. But they were able to hang out with the group, and they were absolutely murder hobos. But it got them hanging out, sitting at a table for 3 to 4 hours, and that was wildly successful. And the fun thing is, by the end of it, they were no longer murder hobos. They were just really crusty, gross folk heroes, because I introduced a even worse, like, edgelordy skull of the murder hobo barbarian's grandfather called Grandpappy. And he was this angry skull that would just dish out verbal abuse and just scream at him. He was such a horrible, toxic person. And like the kids loved it. And they decided that they wanted to be nice to make up for the skull that would just scream and insult every NPC they ran into. So, be flexible, but at the same time, if someone's not having fun, then they should find the group that's right for them.
Right. So what projects are you working on now that you can talk about?
So I got kind of three things on my plate. I've been working on this game called The Caravan Endures, which is a kind of teamwork building RPG that uses the theme park system that I've been running with my aspiring youth groups, the autism groups. And that's like a caravan sim. I'm really excited about finishing that. It's done. I just need to finish the graphic design piece, which is taking a lot longer than I'd like. I am doing the disability group, which I'm very excited about because I've never done anything like this, and it's really interesting. It is not like any traditional D&D game I've ever played. A lot of it actually resembles kind of a choose your own adventure, because it just needs to be incredibly accessible. But it's really a lot of fun. A lot of challenges just because I've never done anything like this, but I'm really enjoying that. And the last thing is I was approached by an autism clinic that got this really big grant to do like 15 groups, and they want to do a number of RPG groups through that. And so they have asked me to be a consultant on that front. So that's really exciting and really scary because I already have 2 jobs, including a full-time job, and I am just biting off more than I can chew. But at the same time, this is kind of the thing I've been wanting to do and really excited to do. And it's in my county, which is Pierce County, Tacoma, and there's a real shortage of autism services down here. So really excited to be making that happen.
It's always nice when you get those things that come along and you go, I can't not do this.
yeah. And what's uncanny is I was told that I have a bunch of fans. I'm like, are those people okay? Are they on drugs? But apparently a bunch of people had seen some talk I did, which I don't even remember doing. Or I remember it's like, oh yeah, that talk, I forgot about that. But they loved it and they're like, we need this guy. So that made me really happy.
Cool. All right, so we'll have all your contact information in our show notes. Where's the one best place that you'd like people to start to learn more about you or to contact you?
Well, there's rollforkindness.com, and I have some of my personal information there. Also, at Roll for Kindness on Twitter. That's ROLLFOR kindness, not ROLE number 4. So just Roll for Kindness on Twitter. And yeah, I'm always really excited to talk to people. I love kind of helping people who are new to this field get started. Usually it's just, hey, you need to go talk to this person or check out this training. But I when people are kind of looking for more, nuanced things, I can usually help them find, the right person who can point them in the right direction.
All right, Peter, thank you so much for coming on the show. Everyone, check out those links in the show notes.
Well, thank you so much.
So just a reminder, when we have people available, we also include a segment on the show called Playing the Other. People with disabilities, neurodiversity, and mental illness come and talk about their experiences and how that relates to gaming. And it's also a chance, if you are a creator, to tell everyone about some of the cool stuff that you're making or you've made. And if you'd like to be a guest on that segment, you can just jump over to wyrmworkspublishing.com/contact, send us a note, let us know you'd like to come on Playing the Other. This summer, for our Patreon, I already talked about the Dragon's Lair, all right, but we're also including that, a 4-part adventure for all of our patrons, and that will be available plus the lair, and we will format it for the lair as well, so that you can see it there. But we are including the PDF for free at all of $3 and up Patreon levels, and so if you just want to grab that, you can get it that way. And so with all of that, if you see this show being helpful, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more, subscribe wherever you're catching this. If you know people that need to hear this, please pass it on to them. And if you, like me, think everyone needs to hear this, please pass it on to your social media friends. And don't forget those podcast ratings. Thanks to everyone for joining us. in helping us make lives better with D&D. And so, how do you use D&D or whatever role-playing game you play to show kindness?